What happens the moment they know where it hurts? What do they do when you finally tell them what keeps you up at night? When you open your chest and show them where the blade once entered, do they honor it? Do they protect it? Or do they smile, remember the spot, and wait for the next time they want to bring you to your knees? Let me tell you a truth that most men only learn after being broken. The moment you reveal what hurts you, you become vulnerable to those who will never deserve your truth. You think sharing your wounds will make her love you more? You think it will make the world soften? Number. It makes you predictable. And the predictable man is the easiest to destroy. There is no strength in public agony. There is no dignity in unfiltered honesty. You've been told that vulnerability is brave, but that's a lie sold to men to make them easier to disarm. What is brave is silence. What is brave is enduring pain without using it as currency. Because pain, when revealed too soon, too easily, too often, becomes a weapon in the hands of people who smile to your face while mapping your destruction. I've seen it in courts, in councils, in bedrooms. A man reveals what terrifies him, what breaks him, what he's ashamed of, and he does so hoping to be understood, hoping to be accepted. But men who crave emotional rescue do not receive loyalty. They receive leverage used against them the moment they falter. She will test you once she knows your weakness. Your enemy will wait until the moment you're stretched thin, and then they will aim directly at what you showed them. Why? Because this world is not made of saints. It is made of tacticians, of opportunists, and they don't attack what's hidden. They attack what's revealed. So let this video be your final warning, and your first rebirth. You are no longer the man who leaks pain in the hope of relief. You are no longer the man who thinks truth is owed to everyone who asks for it. You are no longer the man who believes that speaking about your scars makes you strong. You are the vault. You are the mask. You are the cold strategist who can suffer and say nothing, and in that silence, gain the power no one sees coming. Now sit with me, because I will show you Machiavelli's coldest law. I will teach you why every powerful man in history has hidden his wound like a secret code, and used it not to gain pity, but to win the war. A man who reveals his pain in public may as well place his crown in the hands of his enemies, because once your suffering is visible, once your doubt, your fear, your heartbreak becomes common knowledge, you are no longer a threat. You are a symbol, a monument to defeat, and people do not follow monuments. They admire them for a moment, then walk past. Machiavelli never once advised a ruler to confess his sorrows, not in council, not in bed, not to allies or even family. He understood that the appearance of strength must remain unbroken. Even when the body aches, the mind must remain armored. Even when the soul fractures, the eyes must remain still. For what do the people seek in a leader? Certainty, stability, direction. And if your pain becomes the loudest thing in the room, they will not hear your commands. They will only hear your bleeding. Look at the fate of those who spoke too soon, kings who mourned openly in public after losing battles, generals who blamed their troops when plans failed, lovers who cried for those who had already walked away. Every one of them surrendered the frame, and once you surrender the frame, the vultures arrive, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct, because human nature responds to perceived hierarchy, and pain, especially uncontained pain, signals a man has lost control of his inner world, which means his outer world is vulnerable too. Now look to the modern world. Think of the man who explains himself after rejection, who sends the long message, pouring out his emotions, thinking he'll be seen. Think of the worker who vents his frustration in the meeting, hoping his boss will understand his stress. Think of the friend who confesses his insecurity, thinking it will bring the group closer. What happens next? Does he gain power, or does he lose presence? You already know the answer. You've seen it. You've felt it. Maybe you were that man. Maybe you spoke about your trauma, your heartbreak, your fears, and instead of becoming more respected, you were handled differently. They listened, maybe, but their eyes changed. The tension changed, and you realized, too late, that something sacred had been offered to the wrong hands, and it would not be honored. Pain is a private currency. It is not to be spent on crowds. It is not to be traded for sympathy, because sympathy is not a strategy. It is a sedative. And once you seek it, you hand your authority to the person who gives it. They now determine how you feel. They become your emotional ruler. And Machiavelli's law is simple. A prince who needs validation cannot hold his throne. He will be manipulated by the applause. He will compromise for praise. And he will always be at the mercy of those who promise him emotional relief. So what is to be done? You must learn to bleed without showing the stain, to burn without revealing the smoke, to feel the full depth of your agony and carry it like a sword no one else can see. Because your pain is not their healing tool, it is your power source. And when you learn to wear a steady face while your heart rages inside, you will not just gain respect, you will gain command. People will sense something deep beneath you. They will feel your edge, but they will never know where it lives. And that mystery, that silence, that hidden storm, that is where power begins. Do you think the world will show mercy just because you showed pain? Do you believe that by exposing your wounds, others will lower their weapons? That is not how predators operate. That is not how power works. In politics, in love, in war, weakness is not protected. It is pursued. And this, more than anything, is what most men do not understand until it's too late. The moment you show where it hurts, you activate the predator instinct in those around you. I do not speak of monsters or villains. I speak of ordinary people, colleagues, partners, even friends, whose subconscious wiring will respond to your vulnerability, not with compassion, but with curiosity, with opportunity, with strategy. Because in the hierarchy of survival, everyone is looking for leverage. And leverage is always found in the cracks. You have seen this. A man reveals his heartbreak, and she pulls further away. A man confesses his fears, and his boss delegates less to him. A man shares his insecurity, and his friends begin to mock him, not out of cruelty, but because he's now easier to frame as less. This is not a flaw in the world. It is a law, a biological, political, psychological law. Pain signals status loss. And once your status drops, the predators move. In Machiavelli's time, this meant death. If a prince showed weakness, it gave his enemies permission to revolt. If he mourned too long, he was seen as vulnerable. If he confessed regret, he invited doubt. That is why rulers wore masks. That is why generals smiled before battle. That is why emperors gave speeches while their empires burned, because the illusion of strength is often more powerful than its reality, and no ruler ever survived by showing open wounds to the crowd. Now apply this to your life. In relationships, especially with women, understand this. A man who bleeds emotionally on command is a man whose power dies by inches. She may comfort you once, maybe even twice, but if your emotions begin to define your presence, you will see her attraction dissolve into something colder, something maternal, or worse, indifferent, because she does not want to protect the man. She wants to feel protected by him, and you cannot lead with open scars. It's the same in business, in friendship, in the online world. People do not respect vulnerability unless it is rare, earned, and strategically placed. When you speak from a place of pain too often, they begin to expect it. When they expect it, they lower your frame. And when your frame collapses, you can scream all you want about authenticity. You will not be heard. So what do predators seek? They seek reaction. They seek insecurity. They seek any sign that your core is not firm, that your voice can crack, that your silence can be broken. And the more they see you bleed out emotionally in public, the more they circle, the more they test, the more they escalate, not always out of hatred, sometimes out of sheer instinct, because they can, because you made it possible. But when you show nothing, when your face stays composed, when your voice remains slow, when your posture doesn't fold under pressure, the predators hesitate. They sense there is no entry point. They sense that your calmness might not be peace, but danger, that your silence might not be confusion, but calculation, and they retreat. That is how the calm man walks through a storm untouched, not by begging for mercy, but by becoming unreadable. What you feel is real, but what you show must be chosen. This is the first discipline of power, and the first truth every prince must learn. Machiavelli never told you to feel nothing. He told you to reveal nothing. There is a difference. The man who feels nothing is dead, but the man who feels everything and shows nothing, that man is dangerous. The prince must be feared when necessary, loved if possible, and hated never. But above all, he must be believed. And men do not believe in the unstable. They do not follow the uncontained. So what must a ruler do? He must wear the mask of calm, the mask of confidence, the mask of composure, especially when he is on fire within. Why? Because people do not follow your truth, they follow your frame. If your face crumbles, so does their faith. If your voice shakes, so does their loyalty. If your energy dissolves into desperation, so does their respect. This is not cruelty, this is nature, and Machiavelli understood it with brutal clarity. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. That is the core of statecraft. The prince who suffers must appear strong. The prince who doubts must appear certain. The prince who bleeds must appear crowned, not because deception is noble, but because appearance is the only truth the masses can perceive. This is where modern men fail. You confuse honesty with power. You confuse expression with leadership. You post your heartbreak. You tweet your breakdown. You speak your trauma into microphones, hoping the world will respect your openness. But Machiavelli would shake his head. The crowd may clap, but they will not obey. Your tears will gather sympathy. But sympathy does not create influence. It creates charity. And no man ever ruled from a place of emotional debt. So what is the alternative? Containment. Not suppression. Not denial, containment. That means you build a fortress around your emotion, not to kill it, but to govern it. Your feelings are yours, private, not for validation, not for performance. You bleed in the dark, you process in solitude, and you emerge dressed in steel, not because you are lying, but because you are leading. Even when you love, you must be contained. The man who expresses affection too freely is seen as needing approval. The man who cries in conflict is seen as collapsing. The man who overshares his journey is seen as seeking applause. Machiavelli would tell you, let them see your ambition, not your ache. Let them feel your presence, not your panic. Let them imagine your story, not read it aloud. Because once you learn to mask your emotion, not as a facade, but as a filtration device, you rise, you gain mystery, you gain force, you gain command. And the best part? No one will know how. They will feel your weight, your gravity, your calm, and they will wonder what forged it, but they will never see the wound underneath. That's how you rule. That's how you win. That's why the prince wears the mask. The modern man has been seduced by a dangerous illusion, that if he is open enough, soft enough, transparent enough, he will be rewarded with loyalty, respect, and devotion. That if he speaks his truth, if he bleeds on command, the world will cradle him in compassion. But Machiavelli offers no such comfort. He does not teach men to seek understanding. He teaches them to seek power, and power is never built on sympathy. Sympathy is emotional charity. It is not strength. It is not fear. It is not even respect. It is what people give to those they see as below them. When they pity you, they do not fear you. When they pity you, they do not follow you. They manage you. They walk around your weakness like it's something fragile to be handled, not challenged. And once you accept that energy, once you grow addicted to the soothing of others, you've already lost the frame. Think of how easily pity becomes leverage. You tell her about your heartbreaks, your rejections, your fears, your failures, and in that moment, yes, she may listen. She may even care. But something else is happening too. She is recalibrating her perception of you. She is reevaluating your authority, your resilience, your power. She may sympathize with you, but she no longer fears losing you. You are now emotionally predictable, emotionally accessible, emotionally tame. It is the same with men. Reveal too much pain, and they begin to lower the standard of how they treat you. They begin to step over your boundaries, not because they hate you, but because they no longer see consequence. Why? Because they've seen your rawness. And rawness, in the wrong context, is not intimacy. It is erosion. Sympathy is a feeling. Strategy is a force. When you operate through strategy, you control outcomes. You create tension. You maintain mystique. You set the tempo. Sympathy gives people the upper hand. They now believe they understand you. They think they can manage you. And worst of all, they feel above you. But the man who never asks for sympathy becomes something else entirely. He becomes unnerving, intriguing, respected. He may suffer, but he suffers in silence. And because no one knows what burns behind his eyes, he remains a question they cannot answer, and questions have more power than confessions. That's why Machiavelli warned against seeking virtue in the wrong ways. The man who tries to be seen as good, as pure, as emotionally open to all, is eaten alive by those who understand what game they're really playing. The game is control. The game is frame. The game is not how can I be more understood, but how can I be less exposed. So stop offering your pain as proof of your soul. Stop thinking you will be chosen because you suffered. You will be chosen when you are calm, composed, detached, and clear. When you do not ask to be healed, but walk like you've already survived hell, and wear the silence as armor, not as a cry for attention. Sympathy is not strategy, and if you keep trying to win with the first, you will never master the second. Pain is not your enemy. The exposure of it is. And here lies the greatest misunderstanding among modern men. They believe that power comes from numbing themselves, from pretending they are never hurt. But that is not what I teach. I do not ask you to be a machine. I ask you to be a vault. A vault does not deny what is inside. It contains it. It protects it. It chooses who can open it, and when. The strong man feels pain, deeply, but reveals it selectively, if ever, not because he is cold by nature, but because he is disciplined by design. Machiavelli never denied that rulers suffer. In fact, he assumed they would. Betrayal, exile, loss. These were constants in the life of any prince. But what mattered was not how they felt. What mattered was what the world could see. And the truly powerful ruler never lets the world know how close he came to collapse. Your heartbreak, your failure, your humiliation, these are not curses. They are fuel. But you do not share fuel with strangers. You burn it, quietly, internally, strategically. A man should learn to sit in his pain like a general studying his battlefield. Every wound must be mapped. Every scar must be documented. Every betrayal must be remembered, not as trauma, but as intelligence. Because when you store pain in the vault, it becomes memory. Then it becomes principle. Then it becomes posture. And one day, someone will look at you and say, "There's something different about him. Something I can't read." That something is your discipline. That's the vault they feel. Women will feel it too. They will sense the depth behind your silence. They will test you, poke, prod, try to extract emotion from you, not because they hate you, but because they want to know, can this man be uncentered? And when you do not flinch, when you remain unmoved, not dead, but still, they feel the presence of something they cannot explain. That is attraction born of power, not performance. The vault is built through restraint. You practice not responding to every insult. You practice letting others speak without needing to correct them. You practice walking away, not to win, but to maintain the frame. You suffer privately. You succeed publicly. You turn your silence into aura. And when the world senses pain but never sees it, they treat you differently. Now some will say, but is this not repression? Number, it is not repression. It is control. Repression is fear-based. It avoids emotion. The vault is choice-based. It masters emotion. And only those who deserve your trust are ever invited in. You do not owe your story to every woman who asks. You do not owe your fears to every friend who offers a drink. You do not owe your brokenness to anyone who hasn't proven they'll guard it with their life, because your pain, when shared with the wrong person, becomes a map to destroy you. But when kept in the vault, it becomes your edge, your silence, your mystery. So build your vault, and guard it like a fortress, not to hide from the world, but to show the world that what lives behind your eyes is too powerful to be given away for free. There is a difference between being unreadable and being unreachable. I do not ask you to become ice. I do not ask you to kill your heart. What I ask is that you learn the difference between pain that is processed and pain that is performed. The former gives you power, the latter strips it from you publicly, slowly, without mercy. You must learn how to hide pain without becoming hollow. That is the real art, because men who numb themselves lose instinct. They lose warmth, vision, and eventually, humanity. But the man who can feel pain fully and channel it without showing it to the undeserving, he becomes terrifying, he becomes compelling, he becomes untouchable. So how is it done? First, you slow your speech. Never let urgency leak from your mouth. Fast talk is weak talk. Pain speeds the heart and loosens the tongue. If you're suffering, breathe slower. Speak less. This gives you time to think. It gives you presence. It gives you distance between what you feel and what you reveal. Second, you train your face. Practice neutrality. Your eyes must never broadcast helplessness. Practice stillness in the mirror, not deadness, but detachment. You're not hiding. You're guarding. Let others project onto your silence. Let them wonder what you feel. Do not confirm it for them. Third, you master your posture. Pain tries to collapse you. Shoulders slouch. Head drops. Hands fidget. These are the body's confessions. You must learn to override them. Keep your spine tall. Keep your hands still. Walk like nothing can reach you, not because nothing hurts, but because nothing owns your response. Fourth, you delay expression. You want to talk? Good. Talk later, in private, with someone loyal, or with your journal. You are allowed to feel, but not react. Every hour you wait before responding to pain earns you control. Reactivity is slavery. Delayed expression is strategy. Fifth, you define your circle. Do not vent downward. Do not confess to those who cannot hold your weight. Your pain is not gossip. It is not drama. It is sacred and should be treated as such. If you do speak, it must be with someone who has proven discretion, loyalty, and strength. Because make no mistake, every environment you walk into is watching you. Your woman is watching you. Your rivals are watching you. The men you lead are watching you. And the moment they see the pain leaking out uncontrollably, the frame shifts, not because they are evil, but because hierarchy demands signs, and leaking emotion is the loudest sign of a man who is not ready to rule. So train yourself, not to lie, but to delay, not to be fake, but to be surgical, not to become numb, but to become precise in your silence. Because in a world of emotional chaos, the man who can feel deeply but show nothing becomes the man everyone instinctively respects. Not everyone who listens deserves to hear you. Not every smile means safety. Not every invitation to open up is made in good faith. This is the mistake men make again and again. They confuse attention for trust and kindness for loyalty. They offer their story to those who have not earned it, and then are surprised when that story is turned against them. But power demands selectivity, and your truth must be tested against betrayal before it is ever shared. Machiavelli understood the danger of proximity. A prince could fall not by the sword of an enemy, but by the whisper of a friend. Betrayal rarely comes from strangers. It comes from those who knew too much. The ones you allowed close. The ones you spoke to when your mask was off. That is why the wise ruler tests loyalty through silence. He watches. He delays. He gives small pieces, never the whole. And he waits to see what they do with less before he gives them more. You must apply this law with religious discipline. Before you reveal your fears, your regrets, your wounds, ask, has this person earned my silence? Have they proven they can sit with your stillness without demanding disclosure? Have they honored your boundaries without forcing their way in? Do they protect what little you've already said, or do they turn it into gossip, concern, drama, leverage? The man who gives his pain to everyone is not noble. He is vulnerable. And he does not build connection. He builds dependency. He becomes addicted to being understood, and in doing so, he loses control of his narrative. But the man who waits, who watches, who filters every conversation through the lens of consequence, he keeps his story sharp. He keeps his memory clean. He speaks only when the room can carry what he's about to say. In romance, this is critical. Too many men bleed their past into their relationships, hoping for empathy. They speak of betrayal, of childhood wounds, of rejection, of shame. And in doing so, they open doors that will one day be walked through by someone less loving than she appeared to be. If she does not love your silence, she will never respect your pain. Test her with mystery. Let her wonder what you've endured. Let her earn the right to know, not with time, but with action. In friendship, apply the same frame. Give less and observe more. Offer silence and watch who gets uncomfortable. The ones who demand your truth often want to use it. The ones who sit with your stillness, those are the ones who deserve to stay. And in leadership, never bleed down. Do not vent to those you lead. Do not share what is still raw. Keep your pain private until it becomes wisdom, and only then should you speak, never to gain sympathy, but to teach. This is your test. Who asks for your truth too quickly? Who becomes impatient with your silence? Who resents your unreadable face? These are signs, red flags. Betrayal is not always sharp. Sometimes it starts as curiosity. Sometimes it hides in warmth. And by the time you realize you've spoken to the wrong ear, the damage is already done. So speak less, filter more, guard your pain like it's the weapon it truly is. Because in the game of power, who knows your weakness is always a greater threat than who opposes you. You were told that healing meant talking, that strength meant sharing, that honesty, at all times and with all people, would set you free. But Machiavelli knew better, and now you do too. What you feel is not weakness, but what you reveal can be. Power does not live in exposure, it lives in containment, in silence, in selective truth. And the most powerful man is not the one who feels nothing, but the one who controls exactly who knows what, when, and why. So here is your law. Never reveal what hurts you, not until you know it can no longer be used against you, not until it has turned from rawness into rule, not until it makes you unbreakable, not explainable. Every scar you carry is now ammunition. Every silence you've held is now mystique. Every moment you swallowed emotion to protect your frame was not repression. It was strategy. You were not weak for keeping it in. You were becoming dangerous. Because the wound that you do not show, the memory that you do not speak, the story that you do not volunteer, these are what make you unreadable. And unreadable men are uncontrollable. So walk now with your head high, your pain buried deep, and your power sharp. Let them wonder where it hurts. Let them guess. and when they search for your weakness, let them find only silence. If you understand this law, if you've ever handed your truth to someone who didn't deserve it and learned your lesson, then comment below, "My pain is my power." And never forget, the man who suffers quietly rules loudly. I am Machiavelli, and this was the coldest law I could give you.